Okay, Senator Cortese. So today we're talking about racial justice and poverty in a Bay Area. So what do you see that in the Asian American community?
Well, we see it in every community, including the Asian American community, and we see homelessness. As you know, this area that we're in, the San Jose metropolitan area, has more youth homelessness than any other area of the United States. And of course we see poverty, we see people still struggling, even in the Asian community. It's not because they're not hardworking, they are. Very industrious people, usually, typically, but it's a high cost of living here. It's very difficult to afford rent. It's very difficult to ever buy a house for a lot of people. And now we're seeing youth homelessness at an all-time high. As I said, 11% of San Jose State students are homeless right now.
So what's the policy? What are you going to do to change this?
Well, we've been trying to introduce legislation. In fact, one of my bills, Senate Bill 333, would give a guaranteed income stipend for 5 months to high school seniors that are graduating and they're homeless. We know they're homeless because the federal government has designated them as homeless, and we think that 5 months after they graduate high school but before they enroll in college is critical. And then they don't get any more money after that, but again, that gives them a chance to make it to the next step, and maybe they get financial aid or other resources once they get to college. We think common sense solutions like that make the most sense.
So where this money come from?
Well, that's trouble right now because our bill, from a policy standpoint, is moving very well, through the Senate and the Assembly. We get a lot of support, unanimous votes. But the state budget right now is in a bad state, in a bad situation, and we need to get through that. And so I'm hoping, we haven't given up, we're hoping that people on the finance side of things, on the budget side of things, will see that this investment in our youth will actually help reduce costs in other areas, like the cost of homelessness, like the cost of incarceration.
But how do you identify the qualification of the people to apply for this program?
Well, the federal government, fortunately, has something called the McKinney-Vento Act. And the McKinney-Vento Act requires all public schools to identify their homeless population person by person by person. Now the schools, they won't give up that information. It's very private, right? It's confidential. But we will have something distributed to every single student. What the schools can do is they can give that application for that stipend, for that guaranteed income to each student. They know who they are, and we know they can find them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. My office, because we find it compelling, and we find it goes to the heart of the kind of work that we're trying to do, justice work. He and I have a tendency to support each other's legislation in Sacramento because of that. There's a common denominator around justice, and it's really hard not to support somebody's bill when you see that they're coming from a place of trying to bring equity to our community and justice to our community, and lift up people who are downtrodden, frankly, by a number of things, including just the basic cost of living, especially in this area, right? In this particular area, leading the nation in youth homelessness is not something that we should be proud of, and leading in the number of billionaires and millionaires at exactly the same time. That's not who we should be. I want to thank our panelists for their work and contributing to today's discussion. We'll hear from each and every one of them. It's a great panel. I think we did a good job, and our staffs did a good job of bringing folks together here. I was half joking, but mostly serious when I was walking down, greeting them a few minutes ago, indicating that we're going to hear some real opinions today, because these are folks who have been in the trenches, and they don't pull punches. They say, they speak truth to power. They say what needs to be said, and I think this will be a lively conversation because of that, and a useful one, a productive one. So again, Superintendent Alyssa Lynch, thank you so much. for having us here. You've done such a nice job now. We'll probably come back again and again and again, so be warned about that. The Q&A format, there's index cards. So you want to put your question as you think of it, as you're listening to the panel, or it could be a comment. Put that down and raise your hand. There are folks here on staff who are going to be coming around, like Zach and others, grabbing those cards. The purpose of that is in part because we can consolidate some questions from time to time. Sometimes we'll get 2 or 3 questions that are identical or close to the same, and we can deal with all that much more easily that way. We're going to have the Q&A at the end, and I think we've allocated more than a half hour for that. So if the panelists can be brief and treat that as kind of a lightning round, so we can get through that Q&A letter later on, that would be great, because I know one of the more frustrating things at a town hall is to have a burning question or thought on your mind, and then the town hall concludes and your card didn't get called upon. So we're going to do our best. If you put if you want to, this is totally voluntary, if you put a contact, like it doesn't have to be a text number, it could be an email address on that card. What I guarantee you is, and this is really a guarantee, that if that question didn't get fully answered, we will know that. And you will get an answer back from one or both of our offices. You will get a response back, and you'll hear back from the Senate office or the Assembly office. Sometimes we get a question that no one knows the answer to exactly, or requires more detail. With that, I want to turn it over to my good friend and colleague and someone who I admire greatly, Assemblymember Kalra.
Thank you so much, Senator Cortese. Senator and I he's definitely a partner in justice, and so.
This Silicon Valley Pain Index is really his brainchild, and I say that in the most respectful way, because it's become, of all the different reports that we get from various organizations, I won't name them, but from various organizations around the health of our community, the health of our economy, the disparities between income and poverty here, and all those kinds of things that we're aware of and we feel, we sense, and when we go to the store to purchase something, we feel it in our pocketbooks. All of that has, in a sense, been indexed by the Silicon Valley Pain Index in a way that's so useful and so user-friendly that to me it just overshadows, frankly, every other report that comes out of Silicon Valley that attempts to deal with the health of our community. So we love it, the index, and I would expect we're going to hear something today that leads us down that path again. And for some of you who have already, or in the past, brought us ideas that maybe have not yet matriculated into legislation, know that we're both committed to continue to working on those things. So, again, I'm sure we'll hear more today. And with that, we'll let you introduce the panelists. Thank you.